Okay, so let's talk about melody. For starters, I have a harmony right here, done in fashion that I've shown you before in the lesson before. This is all in A minor. All the chords are in A minor, so we have an A minor, D minor, C major, G major. Let me play that for you. And before I start with the melody, I was thinking to do an inversion of one of these chords. So this one, I'm going to move the highest note an octave down. This doesn't actually change the chord is still the same, it's just an inversion of the same chord. Like this, let's say. Okay, good. Now, what can we do to make a melody on top of this? I have another serum right here. I'm going to create, using a Control-Shift-M shortcut, I'm going to create a new MIDI clip right here. So in that MIDI clip, I want to write a melody. Okay, so what can I do? Well, I can simply use the A minor scale, meaning that I can write white notes, as far as one can see, and just everything will be in harmony. Of course, that doesn't mean that the melody is going to be good. What I'm doing right here is quite random, but that means that the melody is going to be in harmony, that I will not be, making dissonance anywhere, hopefully. So let's see what happens with something like this. And I'm going to do, let's say, like that. So the melody will stay the same all the time. It's the chords that are going to change, and that's one of the possibilities we can have when composing music. So we can have a melody that just repeats and the chords that change underneath it. You see, that's all good and well, and this is, believe me, this is just random A minor scale notes. So you see, it's always in harmony since I'm using the scale where all of these chords are, so you won't see a note anywhere in these chords that doesn't, comply with the A minor, so it's all white notes, and here it's all white notes. So I'm basically writing A minor scale notes on top of, all of these chords that actually go in the A minor harmony. Now, another thing that I could do is maybe do that call and response kind of melody. So let's try that. Let's try to do something like this. So I have that done, and then maybe something like that. And let's say I copy that again into the next pattern, and now I just change the ending like so. Let's say like this. So we can do this kind of a call and response kind of melody where, the call is always the same. So this part of the melody, this beginning is always the same. And then we have a different response every time or 2 times, and that just progresses, continues on. Or we could actually try to follow, these chords with the melody we're doing. Now, we don't have to do that, but we could try. So that's also one of the things we could do. We could also, of course, have this call and response structure using 2 different instruments, meaning that, let's say I duplicate this track, duplicate it like this, and that's a serum, of course, again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that sound. Let me see what sound I want to use. Okay, that's nice. So what I could do now is delete all the call in this one and delete the responses in this one, meaning that the response will be played by another instrument like this. So you see, you can always do that. So call and response from different instruments, that's quite always, present. Of course, we could make a lead, as I've shown you, from only using one synth on top of some chords, and that will be that. So what I'm doing, plain and simple, just playing the scale, notes of the scale that all this harmony is in, and that's it. It's always going to be harmonic. It will never be dissonant. It will never jump out. Now, sometimes it's going to be better. Sometimes it's going to be worse. You can just, you can do random stuff like I did now for an example. But if you, take some time, give it some more effort into creating the melody, of course, it's going to be better. Now, this is just a rule that's going to help you not to search through all of the notes, all of the 12 notes, but only to use the notes from the actual scale. So those 7 notes from that diatonic scale. So starting from A, finishing at A, and all white notes. You could say that's also a C major scale because they share the notes, but they're not, because C major scale starts at C, finishes at C, and the A minor scale starts at A, finishes at A. Now, of course, they both use the same notes, but they start and finish at a different note, and that gives them a distinctive, different feeling when, the entire scale is being played from, the lowest note to the highest note, or vice versa. Now, what we could also do with this is use some of the Ableton's tools to create, melodies. Let's say I leave this just for the sake of, example. Now, I could copy this track again. So let's say duplicate this track like so. And I have also done this in one of the examples before. So I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to use a filter, place an envelope on that filter. Okay. That's not really far away from, the basic setting in Serum from the initial preset, just a couple of clicks away. Yep, nice. So now I can use one of the MIDI effects right here. So I could use the arpeggiator, say like this. So now I have that on top of these chords, and of course, since this arpeggiator is just playing these notes in succession, the notes that I have in these chords, just playing one by one, and those notes are actually going to, coincide with these chords perfectly. Of course, now you can't hear it because it's too low. Let me shift this an octave up, and that's also one of the things, if you're creating two elements that play together, basically if you want them to stand out so that each one of them can be heard, it will be really helpful if one of them is in a different octave so that those could come through clearly, like this. That's nice. Now, another thing I could do is maybe for these, use some chord generators. So, of course, I do have the arpeggiator. I could just as easily use the scale. See, right here. So I can say the base of the scale is an A note, like that. So as it's going to be a minor, I could just as easily skip all the, black notes as such. Skip them all. So what I'm doing right here is skipping all the black notes, and whatever I play, as of now, whatever I play on these notes is going to be shifted to white notes. So whatever black key I punch, if I punch a C sharp, it's going to become a D. If I punch, let's say, a D sharp, it will become an E, and so forth. So this is actually an A sharp. So A sharp becomes a B, C sharp becomes a D, D sharp becomes an E, G sharp becomes an A, so forth. So now nothing has changed, of course, since the notes were already following the scale. But what if I change something? What if I put one of these onto black and this one onto a black note? So I change them to notes that are not actually existent in the scale, that I'm using right now. So let's say all black, some black notes. So what's going to happen now? So they are going to be shifted to, the closest one, as I've already made here. They're going to be shifted to notes that are appropriate for the scale that we are after, just like this. See, this is a really nice tool. So I can actually limit the notes that can be played with this MIDI or with any MIDI input for that matter. So imagine you place this on as your, pre-MIDI effect for any instrument you want to play live from your keyboard. And if you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake or, press a wrong note at any time, so it's better if you press a wrong note and it actually becomes a note that's in the scale than actually pressing the wrong note and it making dissonance, non-harmony within the song. So you could actually place an effect just like this one, scale, limiting, the MIDI information that comes in to the scale that is, the scale of the song you're playing with, and it will actually disable you to play any notes that are not in the scale. So that could really be useful for, let's say, live performances. If you're not really a good keyboard player, like as I am not, I would definitely use this just to be sure I'm not going to, play something dissonant. Even if I play a wrong note, it's still going to be a note that's going to be in the scale. So not such a harmful, thing for a live performance. So you can do that too. Another thing we could do for all of these melodies, as right now they're all in harmony, like this. Even if I play all of this, even if we don't hear all of them at the same time, because it's a lot of, playing. So what if I wanted all of this to become, let's say, an F minor? I would probably just go inside each one of these MIDIs and just go 1, 2, 3, 4 down. So when this A minor becomes an F minor, everything right here is in an F minor scale now. So how do I do that with all the rest of these? Well, what I could do is use this pitch modulator. That's a MIDI modulator. So anything going into this synth, when I place this pitch on, I can actually take each one of the notes, each one of the MIDIs, and just apply this -4 semitones, making it effectively an F minor scale, because now I transposed every note that's being played 4 semitones down. So I can actually switch these as if I went in here, took all of the notes and did this 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what the MIDI effect is actually doing. So I did that on this channel. Now I have to do that on each one of these channels, just like that. Just move it everywhere. Yeah, and apply this -4. I can take that same one and apply it to the one underneath. Now everything's playing in an F minor. That's it. No better way, to use all the computer, technology to actually make it easier for you. So you could actually limit yourself to playing only the white notes, using only the A minor or a C major, and just play the white notes, put in this plugin that's going to limit you from making any errors. So any error you make is going to be transposed and, actively brought down to the scale that where everything is white, and then you can actually pitch that up or down so that it actually becomes a different scale. It makes it easier for a beginner who has no, keyboard training to play something, to maybe even jam out, because if you're using only white notes, it's easy to jam out even if you're not a keyboard player. So to, experiment, try to find some kind of a harmony, and makes it easier for you not to be, pressed by remembering, let's say, a scale of F minor or F sharp minor, something like that. For the beginning, of course, you should learn all of these in due time, but this is really a nice help that computer technology can give us. Now, in the end, this is what it all comes down to. Like making a MIDI melody by knowing the scales or knowing the MIDI notes, or you can actually help yourself. Let me delete this. You can help yourself by using some of those, modifiers. So let's say I didn't have this. I'm going to delete these MIDIs. Let's say I didn't have all of this, all of the harmonization on top of the notes. So let's say I just wanted to do like this, just simple notes like that. They are all in key, of course. They don't have to be, they are. I'm not gonna transpose them for now. I'm gonna use this chord plugin. Yep. So I'm going to make chords. Let me remove this pitch to avoid confusion. So I'm gonna use this chord plugin. I'm gonna add like this. I'm gonna add a couple of shifts to each one of these notes. So what I'm doing is by playing one note right here from this MIDI, let's say an A note, this plugin is going to add two more notes, and those two are going to be the A plus 4 semitones and the A plus 6 semitones. So wherever note I play, it's going to add two more notes that are going to be 4 and 6 semitones up from that one. And once I do that, that's okay for, let's say, some of the chords, maybe, because it's going to make a major chord. Let's say like this, I can make 1, 2, 3, yeah, I can make a minor chord out of this A. You see the same, you just added two more notes, it's in minor. But right here, where I need to play a C major chord, you see, again, it plays a minor chord. So how do I disable it? If I always want to have, a simpler, triad chord, I can again employ this scale thing and just disable the computer from playing any black notes, just like that, from playing any notes that are not in the scale, actually, So I can do it like that. Now, whatever this makes, those notes will be shifted to a proper note, always. And you see, problem solved. I always have a chord. The chord is always in key because this is preventing it not to be in key. So even if I don't switch the bass still, I just disabled all the, black notes and I'm playing in A minor. So it's done. I can play whatever notes I want right here and it will harmonize automatically. And I can add more notes shifted. So let's say I want to add more of these to make different chords, like more complex chords maybe even. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be a masterpiece. For that, it needs a bit more effort than just me, putting in some of these effects. But it just as easily might be, something sounding really nice. Depends on how much work you put into it. It's always like this with the creative process when you're trying to make something nice and pleasing, trying to, inspire emotions. So this is just some of the basic things you can do with melodies. So using the harmony, as I've shown you, always in one chord. And for all of these examples, I'm using the ones that have only the white notes, so A minor or C major. And then you can use all of these MIDI effects, which actually help you stay within the limits of that scale. This is just a computer's way to easily help you create some of the things, and get something, maybe even something experimental and random that you wouldn't get any other way, and maybe help you with the creative process.